Today we are going to check a new charger out, and if you're from North America, you know that 7-Eleven is famous for Slurpees, but now they also decided to get into the EV charging game with 7Charge. Very nice, original name for their chargers. So yes, we're gonna test it out today, see if it's any good, because this location is actually quite interesting. For people who are like us coming from Edmonton, we can charge before getting into Calgary, because Calgary is only about 30 kilometers away. So if it's a viable option for people traveling south from Edmonton and not having to charge in Calgary, let's say if you're going to Banff or Lake Louise or the mountains, this would be perfect. But we'll check it out, see if it's any good. But before we do that, let's go inside the car and I'll show you guys the stats on arrival here. Before we start charging, let me show you guys some stats from the trip. So right now the battery is at 17 degrees on the high end, 14 on the low end. So we've got a delta of 3. We arrived here with 2.5% in the battery. So BMS and the display seem to agree on this one. I always say that when you get to the bottom of the battery, both will even out. It is a -14, but it is very windy, and with wind chill, we're looking at about -24. We started from home today with -18 with a 10-degree wind chill, so -28 when we started. So let's just show you guys the statistics here from when we left home. So we drove today 227 kilometers. Our average consumption was 26.3, and we did it in 2 hours, 25 minutes. Now you see it's -14. 10-degree wind chill, we're looking -24, but we started at -28. So just keep that into perspective when you're thinking about, 263 watt hour per kilometer. That's huge. Yes, it's huge because it's also huge cold. So what we're gonna do now is obviously we're gonna plug in and see how well these 7Charge chargers work and what kind of speeds we're gonna get. Obviously, I'm not expecting huge speeds right off the bat because 17 is too low to get good speeds. We should be looking at least 26 to get 74 kilowatt, which is pretty much the maximum of this car. So it's going to take some time to ramp up, but because we're at 2.5%, we're going to probably see those numbers, but again, a little bit later, not as soon as we plug in. But anyways, let me get out there, plug that in, and see what we do and see what we get on these 7Charge 7-Eleven chargers. We just plugged in, and as expected, we're only pulling 34 kilowatt right now. Like I say, 17 is not enough to get full speeds or even close to them. Anything a little bit more than 34 would be looking at it being at least over 20 degrees on the max temp setting here. But yeah, we'll sit here for quite a while because we're only at 3.5, and ideally I would like to get enough to get to our next destination, which is going to be Red Deer and then home, but we'll see how it goes. I want to see if we can get those full speeds. And just for fun, there's a Hummer EV charging right next to us in a nice color. So he's maybe hogging all of the charging speeds if he's maxing out. All right, so 4% right now, and then we'll see if this increases. If it does, I'll give you guys an update. There are 2 chargers here, obviously with 2 different connectors. Here you've got CHAdeMO and CCS. There you've got 2 CCS, but it's not too busy because, like I say, it's just outside of Calgary. So a lot of folks who are coming from Calgary to Edmonton will not charge here. But people who are going from Edmonton to Calgary, this is a great option. And it is located right on the highway. So you don't really need to even do much to get off the highway and charge. Obviously, if you're coming from Calgary over there, it's much easier. If you're coming from Edmonton, you do have to go a little bit further, about 2 kilometers up that way, turn around and then come back and then get into the charger. But again, it's very simple, very, very easy if you want to be doing that. So yeah, location wise is great. I mean, there's a Petro-Canada card lock for trucks. You've got your gas station here, which is Petro-Canada. You've got 7-Eleven in there with a Burger King, so you can eat something if you are hungry. So yeah, definitely a great location, and I will be utilizing this if it's actually any good. Now my only issue is, as always, ABB chargers. So there you go, that's your plaque there. Standard ABB Terra chargers. So you're looking at DC output for CCS at 200 to 920 volts, CHAdeMO 150 to 500, but you're going to be limited by your amps here. So we're looking at about a 200 max amperage on this, and made in Italy. Ooh, nice. So yeah, in terms of the speeds you can get on certain vehicles, perhaps not the best. You rock up with a 800 volt car, you're going to be okay. Yeah, this is why I am such a huge proponent, especially in winter, of cars having preconditioning. I just don't think that these older cars without preconditioning are such good charging vehicles during the winter, at least your first charge. So if you're on a road trip, like what I said, let's say if you're going to the mountains, right? This first charge is going to be slower at the beginning simply because it will take time for the battery to warm up. At least the next charge, wherever it's going to be down the road for you, that's going to be much quicker because the battery is already warm enough to get that charging speed. But your first charge, even though we were 2 hours on the road, 200 kilometers, yeah, not fast at all. This is the Hummer EV. He's pulling 72 at 72%, and he's added 43 kilowatt hours. So yeah, I guess it's also limited by his battery temperature. But yeah, nice location here. Definitely will be utilizing it more when I drive from Edmonton to Calgary. So good job 7-Eleven on doing something like this for us EV drivers. Whoever gets into the game and puts more chargers in, it's going to make road tripping and driving an EV that much easier. So we hit 26 degrees on the battery and boom, we are at almost 74, which I say is the fastest that we can hope to get with this car. But it took us quite a long time. So we're at 38% right now, and we started at what, 2.5%, 3%. So it took us 35% to warm up the battery enough to get full speeds. But it's there, so again, that's what I mean. If your car has preconditioning, use it. If you don't use it and you show up at a charger and you're not getting full speeds, that's on you. And with cars like this, you just need to sit and wait. But now, we're going to be unplugging very, very soon at around 50% because we're going to Red Deer. And when we arrive at Red Deer, these numbers will be much better. It will be in our favor. So then when we charge over there, we're going to be getting faster speeds. So it's always the first charge on a road trip in winter where you're going to suffer a little bit. But then later on, you're going to do much better in terms of charging speeds. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but these 7-Eleven chargers with... if you come up with a CCS car, you're getting 180 kilowatt max. Obviously, if your car can handle the 200 amp limit, and then you're getting 100 kilowatt charging speed on the CHAdeMO. So not too bad. It's just that you have to be mindful of that 200 amperage cap on these ABB chargers. So this is why I'm thinking like a lot of companies now getting into the game should be looking at Camp Power, should be looking at other providers, simply because those systems are way more dynamic than these old school ABB ones that, were good back in the day when we didn't have cars that charge at, 800 volts or cars that can go up to 350 and all that stuff. So just something to think about for other companies getting into the EV charging space in the future. It's always worth it to get some better equipment like Camp Power, for example. That's going to be usable for more years and way more reliable than ABB. And just a quick look at the screen here, we're getting 76 according to the charger, so not too bad. Yeah, so overall, I mean, not a bad location and not a bad charger, and it's good that 7Charge from 7-Eleven is actually performing well today, so I couldn't ask for more. We are good to go, 60%, we're doing only 59. No point staying here because we are going to charge again in Red Deer. So we're going to unplug and go. One cool thing though, all you have to do is scan this QR code if you have the app, and then you can activate, which is nice. So you don't have to guess and look at which charger you're wanting to charge in. And then also here, they say credit card reader. I'm not sure which one. This one? I don't know. These things don't work well, so I'm not sure. Better you have the app if you're going to charge here. I know. Another app, not great, but what can we do? So anyways, we're gonna unplug now and then off to Red Deer. And when we get to Red Deer and I get an email with how much this costs us, because we've been here 44 minutes, 41 kilowatt hours put into the battery, I will tell you guys what I think about 7Charge at 7-Eleven. 7Charge. All right, anyways, unplug and we go. So while we're charging here in Red Deer, let's look at how much this charge at the 7-Eleven 7Charge cost us. It was $20.75 total, including all the taxes, Canadian dollars. I'll put it into the US conversion rate on the screen, and I will also calculate how much that would be if this was per kilowatt hour, because unfortunately it's not. It is billed by the minute. Okay, so now let's look at some positives, some negatives surrounding this location and 7-Eleven charging options. So my first positive, I would say location is great. For us coming from Edmonton, and especially in colder climates like this in the winter, it's very nice to have a charger right close to Calgary, so I don't have to go to the city to charge, especially if I'm going to Banff, Lake Louise, the mountains, British Columbia, whatever. If I'm traveling west, right? I don't want to go to the city to charge because it just takes too much time. Having there on the highway, perfect. So that's the positive. Next one, it's brand new or relatively new. So again, I would say that it's pretty reliable, because with new equipment and new infrastructure, you know, at least for the next few years, it's going to be good. And then it's just up to the company to maintain it, right? So let's hope that 7-Eleven does that. So I would say these are the two positives. The next one is the kilowatt hour versus per minute pricing, right? So I would rather it was kilowatt hour based, simply because like when we arrived, cold battery, it took us a little bit time to ramp up. And you know, if it was just based on usage, I would have paid the same regardless. I was charging fast or slow, it doesn't matter. I would pay the same. But with minute billing, obviously the first part of my charge was slower, so I had to pay more. So that's why it's $20 instead of less than $20, right? If it was based on usage. So it just depends. If you rock up with a car that can handle faster charging speeds, is not hindered by the 200 amp limit, then by all means, you'll be out of there in 15-20 minutes and you're going to be paying less. And your kilowatt hour rate, right, if you calculate it that way, would be very low. But for, you know, a car like mine, or even slower charging EVs like a Bolt, or, you know, older ones, that kind of, you have to take that into consideration, that it is going to be a little bit more expensive. So that would be the biggest con here. And also, I don't know, choice of charging equipment, right? ABB, not exactly known for reliability. They have to make sure that it gets maintained. If it doesn't, it will stop working. So again, I'm going to tell this, I said it once and I'm going to say it again. If you're a charging operator wanting to get into the business, nowadays there are so many options for much better and more stable charging equipment, like Kempower, for example. Get those instead of ABB. I know it might be cheaper. Long term, you're going to spend less because maintenance is going to be lower. But anyways, I think it's a great location. Perfect for charging if you want to drive to the mountains and you live somewhere north of Calgary. It's right on the highway. It's easy to get to. Lots of options to go and buy a drink, a snack, or whatever. So yeah, definitely good. And they have, you know, 7-Eleven open a few locations in Canada. So download the app, have a look at where they are. 180 kilowatt chargers, pretty good. So yeah, I would recommend you try it if you have one nearby. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.